Hello and welcome to the In the Money Players podcast. This is our show for Monday, September 15th. Peter Thomas Fortitow, back from Woodbine, back in the Brooklyn bunker, once again, which you're seeing if you're watching on our YouTube channel. If you are listening on the In the Money Players podcast feed, hello to you as well. Want to encourage the YouTube folks to check out the podcast feed and vice versa, because not all content goes on each one. You can subscribe to the In the Money Media YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the podcast feed wherever you get your pods. And or you can sign up for a free email newsletter. That's a good place to put that stuff all in one viewable format. InTheMoneyPodcast.com/email. PTF, as I mentioned, joined today by a man coming to us from the planet Texas. He's Nick Tammaro. Nick, how are things?
Going great, my friend. Glad to be with you and obviously marching towards the fall.
Yeah,
doesn't feel like in Texas, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Is it still broiling down there?
Oh yeah, it's still hot.
Yeah, we're in. We've had a touch of the fall, just a touch of the fall weather, though. We're running around Woodbine, which we decided to do. We basically had to move. We basically moved a quarter of a mile for each of the 11 races twice. So in the sunshine there, yeah, it was feeling like the heat of summer. I'm explaining to the Brits how it's 72 degrees is actually cool, or 27 or whatever weird number they called it is actually cool. But it was a great weekend up there. Let's start by talking about Breeders' Cup win, and you're in action in the form of the Breeders' Cup Mile. It was a very frustrated after the first two mounts of the day for him. William Buick, who got aboard, notable speech. And it started off as even more of an adventure for this heavy favorite after breaking slowly. But William Buick made no mistake, got him up into the race early. And I mean, is this an exaggeration? He probably could have started behind the gate and won. Such was his superiority over that field.
Yeah, I mean, it played out on track like it looked on paper, which is that he was just far better than those horses. And obviously he had exposed form that his stablemates from earlier that had failed in the summer and Natalma respectively didn't. And we knew he was quite a bit better and ended up proving it on the day. But one of the things that I'm always fascinated by with Buick is that he adapts so well to American racing and knows when to get his horses involved a little bit earlier. This configuration also serves as a great setup for Del Mar because the situation with the stretch and the turns makes it very, very similar, both 7 furlong turf courses. Although I will say, Pete, I wonder in a way if interest in these races might not be as significant from overseas with them being on the inner turf. I actually will admit I did not realize they were on the inner turf until the other day. This is the first year all three were run on the inner turf, right?
Correct. EP Taylor's being renovated.
Okay.
It will be back, if all goes according to plan, for September of next year. Because as we know with these turf courses, it's not just about doing the work. You got to give them time to root, etc.
Right.
But I think your point is key for a race meeting coming up at Woodbine. They are doing the International this year in a few weeks' time. And I do wonder if for a race like that, some of these more galloping European types might be dissuaded from coming, but they shouldn't be, because it's good experience to get anyway for any horse that might eventually be thinking about running in a Breeders' Cup at a place like Keeneland or Del Mar, because as you mentioned, aren't all three of those 7 furlong turf courses, so there is a similarity.
Yeah, Keeneland's 7.5.
Gotcha. That's a big difference.
It's a little bit, it's a little bit different, a little bit more. Probably a little bit more laid out for a Euro type of style with a longer straight and narrower turns, whereas Del Mar is just sort of a, as far as 7 furlong turf courses go, it has the shortest stretch in North America.
Yeah, it's even tighter too when you think about it, because at over a mile, they're breaking from that chute in the infield in Del Mar. Right. And if you're doing that turn isn't even banked.
Correct.
So it adds yet another challenge. And all 7 furlong turf courses wouldn't necessarily be created the same because of banking, how much of a rise you get on those turns. So it's tricky. But yeah, Buick, he's great at adjusting, but he had no choice with Wild Desert, right? I mean, he broke from the 10. That horse ran a winning race. And then on the filly, Dance to the Music. I mean, I think you can make a pretty good argument that both of those horses win on the Taylor. And it's just, nature of horses for courses, and the nature of racing is such. And there were other, maybe even a harder luck story those races is the Miguel Clement runner, the Teddy's Rocket, breaking from the 12, who had a miserable trip. But we'll get to those races. Back to the Woodbine Mile for a minute. In Beyer speed figure terms, it's a 101. Not going to be scaring away any other Euros from coming over. I mean, the mile is one of these races it's almost ridiculous to talk about on September 15th because there's such a wide variation in who might turn up. But he has to be considered a serious contender, at least, if not the out-and-out favorite, should he go there. What are your thoughts on Notable Speech going forward?
Yeah, I think what you said is exactly right. My understanding is Diego Velasquez is coming over for the Coolmore Turf Mile and is going to stay. Obviously, he beat Notable Speech 2 starts back in the I think it was the Prix-Jacques
Marois.
Right.
Though Notable Speech was best. He had a terrible trip in there.
Right. So, it is Notable Speech appreciably better than he was when he came over for this race last year. It looks like he's at least as good, if not better. The Appleby runners look like they're doing a little bit better in North America right now than they were last year as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think he'd be among the favorites, if not the favorite. We'll see if Japan has anything to offer, because they obviously have participated at a pretty high level when the Breeders' Cup's been out west. But he would be one of the 2 or 3 choices at this point, I would think. And part of it is that our American contingent, and granted, Americans were 1-2 in the mile last year, it doesn't look particularly robust. There was very little American representation in this race. It was mainly just Canadians and some of the also-rans from some of the races outside of Canada. And they didn't do anything special because it looks like they're not really much of a special bunch.
Looking at the international betting, Notable Speech is favorite right now, 7-2. But there's some other big names, interesting horses in the betting. Rosalian, 11-2. Soul Rush, 7-1. Henri Matisse, 8-1. Never So Brave, 10-1. Opera Bello, 9-1. Deterministic, the first U.S. runner mentioned, at 12-1, along with Diego Velasquez. Field of Gold is actually in the betting and catching some money. I hadn't heard that he might be coming over. Yeah, this is a race we're just going to put a pin in for several weeks. Over the next few weeks, we have, obviously we have England coming up, which we're pumped about, some other great stuff to talk about, but hopefully we're going to get some time doing these recapping to do some really early previews. I think that's content that people really like and will perform well. So yeah, I mean, maybe on a show soon, maybe even as soon as next week, we should go over your classic list. I know you've been voting on that all year.
Yeah, for sure. Hasn't changed much the last couple of weeks, but in fact, I need to put in my new poll. But yeah, that would probably be a good time to do it, maybe after the Pennsylvania Derby.
Let's talk about the Natalma Grade 1 action for the fillies. The market disrespected the local form. Corsia Veloce was a big price. Somebody told me with a straight face that I'm supposed to call this horse Corsia Veloce, and I just won't do it. So,
Nope.
Corsia Veloce.
That's Veloce. Yeah, no, that was especially with an owner named Mario Serrani. So,
come on.
No. This was the ultimate figs don't lie, Pete, right? This filly had gotten a really good number in the Catch a Glimpse and ran back to it. Didn't quite get to where she was in the Catch a Glimpse. But when you earn an 85 fig, it's very usually a good indicator of what kind of ability a horse has. And so I'm not surprised that she was able to run back to it. Obviously got a pretty sweet trip along the inside and, worked out perfectly. I do think Dance to the Music was a little compromised by how far back she was. I think Deep Learning was hurt by the outside draw. I'm actually very surprised that the Connections ran Deep Learning in here, knowing that the Miss Grillo is coming up at Aqueduct. That's at home. And when she drew the far outside post on the inner turf, I was very surprised they continued to go there. But, I guess they wanted to see exactly what they had in her, and now they kind of know.
It's yes and no, though, right? Because I know the figure's slow, and maybe I'm falling – slow-ish. 81 was the figure. Maybe I'm falling into the trap of wanting a horse out of a slow race. But I just feel like the trip Deep Learning had, the trip Dance to the Music had, I would give these another chance in either on a similar configuration drawn inside or on a different type of configuration. Did you hear anything? What do you think the plan will be for Deep Learning from here? Because, I mean, she clearly has some fastest horse in the world type vibes to be bet that hard in this race.
Yeah, no, she's highly regarded. And look, she ran a fast race on debut, did it with circumstances in her favor, but she ran a very, very good race. And, I mean, the winning Beyer speed figure in last year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies Turf was 85.
Okay.
So it's not like horses like Corsia Veloce and Deep Learning are all that far off of it.
No, that's
I shouldn't say they kind of do know what they have because they really don't. So that was erroneous on my part. And she does deserve another opportunity. I wonder, it seems like it would be unlike Chad to do it, but I wonder if maybe she gets another shot in the Jessamine just because she probably needs to get into the race. And I don't know if she'll have the credentials to get in. You know, that's usually an oversubscribed field. And basically everybody that runs 1-2 in this and the Miss Grillo and the Jessamine are going to be guaranteed a spot. So she would need the racing secretaries and the additional panel to get her in. So you almost wonder if maybe he thought, okay, well, we'll hope she wins, runs second, even runs third. She'll probably get in automatically. But otherwise, we'll just wait and give her another shot in the Jessamine or the Miss Grillo, which are run on the same weekend.
And how far out? Do you know offhand?
3
far out?
weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. So not horrible. 3 weeks to there, and then four to the Breeders' Cup after that.
What about Corsia Veloce herself? Do you see her in most years? I know the Natalma runners have done well sometimes in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but sometimes I do question coming from the EP Taylor to the tight course if it'll suit them. We know that the tight course suits her. Of course, she was ideally drawn in the spot as well. But I mean, do you think she's a serious contender for that race?
I mean, she deserves to be in there. I don't know if I wanted to say serious contender, but yeah, she's earned her spot. So we're going to see. I mean, you know, I think what you would know a little bit better than me is that we didn't get Aiden's B and C team last year in the 2-year-old ranks. We got 2 of his better 2-year-olds. Yep. And so, you know, if we were to get, I think he trains a filly, I believe it is, out of Newspaper of Record that I saw win the other day. You know, if we were to get a horse like that, the way she looked or he looked, I forget. I should have looked before we started the show. Then obviously what's going on in this country doesn't really matter, right? Because those horses are just at a different level. And Appleby didn't really have any good 2-year-olds last year. So, you know, Aiden's largely dominated this race. So, you know, short of knowing what he's sending over, Corsia Veloce has earned her spot in the gate.
Yeah, let's move on and talk a little bit about the summer stakes here for a second, where once again, local form held up pretty well with Argos, named after Odysseus's dog, not the Toronto. I was assuming there was a CFL connection, and the owners, who were very nice people, but from Florida, disabused me of the notion that they would name a horse after a CFL team. Odysseus's dog wins the day for the name of Argos. This was a nice run, same figure as the other race, despite one of those interesting ones where you do see a slightly different time produce the exact same figure. It was an 81 in a race that once again felt like there were a few hard luck stories in here. I mean, Teddy's Rocket leaping to mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same kind of situation with him, right? Do they look for another opportunity for him along the way towards the Breeders' Cup? And the difference between him and Deep Learning is that his maiden win was not earned in some wildly flashy scenario. He didn't get a huge speed figure in doing it, but they knew the risk they were running by running him in here with the far outside post. His debut race itself has come up somewhat at least interesting at this point, as the second place finisher did come back and win on Saturday. Didn't exactly look all that great at Belmont at the Big A, but no, there's no doubt Teddy's Rocket obviously is a horse deserving of another opportunity. I'd be happy to bet Wild Desert in Breeders' Cup, especially if you might be able to get a few clicks up from where he was price-wise. And I think there might be a decent chance of that. But again, we're in a holding pattern, sort of waiting on seeing what kind of caliber of horse Aidan O'Brien's going to send over.
So let's take a look here. We got another good Italian name here. Benvenuto Cellini.
That's the one. Yeah. That's the Newspaper of Record.
Yeah, and so he would be if he comes this way.
It's a colt, right?
Yes, colt.
And that horse carried the Peter Brandt Silks, which means that Peter is involved, which I feel like greatly increases the likelihood that we get the horse over for the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, you would think he's a big supporter of the meeting, and it would only make sense given how good she was in there a few moons back. Anything else at Woodbine was fun to see. Caitlin her greatness win. You know, I mean, we've seen that these King's Plate horses can go on and compete in open company, and hey, they even won one. Moira winning at the Breeders' Cup. I'm not sure Caitlin is fast enough to put that goal in mind, but she was a popular winner, 4-5 on the board. I mean, just just turned that into a one-horse race.
Yeah, no, it's always fun to see good horses run back to their best form, and this was obviously a lot of fun. So yeah, nice to see her, and I thought the card all in all was a lot of fun. Always is great day to be up there. My lone Woodbine trip prior was on a Woodbine Mile day, so yeah, I'm envious that you were able to enjoy it, and I know I have to find my way back. Simcoe, who won the Vigil too, has turned into a really nice sprinter and looks to be in top form right now. Just a synthetic horse, bred a little bit more for the dirt than the average bear, and you might wonder if they might be flirting with the idea of maybe trying him on dirt again. As Aurora Lights, his dam was a Grade 3 winner on dirt, and he did only get that one opportunity and didn't really run that bad in a race that was pretty tough on paper. So maybe there's a chance on dirt for him.
We can also hammer back to one of our favorite topics, because I feel like the key to him was when they sort of stopped goofing around with rating him and just said, you know what, speed's the weapon. And ever since they committed to making this horse a front runner, he's looked like something else.
It's amazing how that works. Huh?
It's always good when we can point to one that supports our priors. Simcoe, certainly one of those. We got to talk a little bit about Churchill Downs, Louisville Thoroughbred Society Stakes winner Bentornato. This is a horse that did it in very fast time. I haven't seen a figure yet, but was very impressive and is certainly going to be in the conversation for the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Yeah, this came back fast. There is no number in yet, but I can tell you, just looking at my calculations on it, this could be in the 108 to 109 range. And it has all the makings of a super fast race. He's a fast horse. He won by 5+ lengths. A horse like Skelly was third. He's got mid 105 to 110 type figs in the past. If you give him a 107 in here, then it gives Hear My Song the 95 he ran last out. And in all likelihood, Hear My Song probably ran a little bit better than he had in his last start. Bentornato looked very good. I was telling a friend this morning, it feels like he is the only horse we've seen this year that can beat Pocahontas in a race like the Breeders' Cup Sprint. He's got that ability. He's got that ability to lay close. He ran very well locally at Del Mar. And, that's the disadvantage of having a long campaign and the Breeders' Cup being so meaningful, is that horses can just sort of swoop in later in the year and become a major threat to you. And that might be exactly the case with a Bentornato, who I thought looked really, really good.
Let me ask you this. 8-1 at the Sharp book seems like a not very sharp price. That seems like a very good price on Bentornato right now. 4-1 Pocahontas, 7-1 Straight No Chaser, 10-1 Barnes, 12-1 Patch Adams, 7-1 Mulligan. Just reading through some prices. I mean, 8 Bentornato, assuming your figure guess is on the money, would be pretty good, right? Or do you think he could be a little forgotten on the day with Pocahontas, Patch Adams kind of hype?
No, 8-1's a buy for sure. Yeah, he we're going to see very few of these horses run back again before the Breeders' Cup, but it seems awfully hard to imagine he's a lot higher than 5-1 or so.
Yeah.
I mean, if Pocahontas gets bet a little more, maybe he goes down to 3s, and Straight No Chaser still has to run back. So, he's a horse that runs by appointment only, and you don't want to bank on him too much. Obviously, if he's in the gate, he's a serious player, no question about it. But, could an older, a little bit more lightly campaigned horse like Bentornato get to him this year? Sure, right? No argument for me. I have no idea why Barnes would be a shorter price than Patch Adams. I thought they settled that on the racetrack pretty nicely last time.
Yeah, there's only one. It's weird. The Sharp books prices might not be very sharp right now, because nobody else even has the horse priced up, making me think he's not even pointing. So maybe I'll have to reevaluate that parlance.
Right. I don't love Patch Adams at 6 furlongs personally.
Right.
At a place like Del Mar, maybe 6 at Belmont, 6 at Keeneland, 6 at Churchill, where he can kind of grind a little bit. But Del Mar's 6 furlongs that's a get in position kind of trip. And so I don't love him at 6. I don't love Barnes obviously in there. I mean, I think if you're getting Bentornato at 8-1, you're getting the second likeliest winner at this point at a price more along the lines of the third or fourth choice.
International viewers, something for them to chew on. We here in North America, more or less out of luck. But it's still, somebody asked me, why do you talk about these prices when we can't bet them? Because it gives you like a window in to the race and helps you start, at least for me, gives a way in and a way to start thinking about it this far out, because it is, of course, the best betting days of the year, as far as I'm concerned. Breeders' Cup, it's coming up soon. We've got you covered if you're an In the Money Plus person, and we're actually going to have a discount think if you go to the site now, you can see, I'll probably have an ad read if you're listening on the podcast side somewhere about it, but go to inthemoneypodcast.com/plus, because there's a way you might be able to get a jump on your Breeders' Cup coverage over there. But of course, no obligation. We'll be doing a lot of stuff for free as well. But if you want even more, inthemoneypodcast.com/plus. We are just about out of time. Any closing thoughts? Any glaring host fails of horses I didn't bring up? I'm sure there are a few of them.
No, I mean, we had the Road to the Derby kickoff with Spice Runner nailing Comport in the last stride of the Iroquois. Spice Runner is a full brother of Gunite, so in all likelihood, he's probably not going to be a Derby horse. He'll be more of a mid-range, mid-distance type. I think Comport, who finished second, is the same way. Royal Spa was a pretty nice winner of the Locust Grove, and Alpine Princess, I think, has now earned her spot. She's been inducted officially into the Hall of Fame of horses failed by their human connections. Not allowed to use her speed ever, and they've done a pretty terrible job of turning her into a closer.
Well, there you go. There you have it. Never one to shy away from a strong opinion, and generally speaking, a very sharp opinion. Nick Tammaro, great having you here. We'll run it back soon, whether we're recapping some of this fall action or maybe doing some stakes previewing before too long.
Sounds great, my friend.